All right, Mr. Devon.
Mr. Chu. Last time we did this, actually, Dr. Chu.
Dr.
You worked
Chu,
very
yes.
hard. You worked very hard for that doctor.
I worked hard for it. Yes.
Yes. So
it's
last
not-
time we talked, you were just about to leave for Taiwan.
Well,
I mean, not last time we talked, but last time we talked in recorded fashion.
yes, that's right. That's right. The last time we talked, I was in Los Angeles, and we were talking about the COVID-19.
Aren't you glad that we're done with that? God, that whole Corona thing.
Yeah. So glad we're over it already.
Yes.
Now we're in 2022. Looking back at 2020, it's just
amazing how crazy that was. Would never have guessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we started, I think we were just both talking about kind of our current state of mind, you know. At least for me, I found that recently I'm more like irritable than usual. Not that like I wasn't before, but I'm just more. I'm just less patient. Not feeling as well connected to my circle, to my men, to my friends, and it's really affecting me, you know. And I think it's affecting you in similar ways, right? So we decided.
Seem like my cheery self. I'm always irritable and cranky, but yes, a little bit more than usual.
A little bit more than usual, right? And we made a decision that, you know, we're not gonna hide it or make it a problem. We're just gonna go with it, go with our current state, and see what we can come up with.
Yeah. Well, one of the motivations for me to talk to you this way, I mean, it also kills two birds with one stone. I put it on my podcast. You put it in your podcast, and you know the lazy man makes it really nice.
I like it.
But the other piece of it is, I think you probably realize that, but this is the first podcast I'm recording since my mom died, and I have a number of podcasts that I haven't edited and put on, and it was just. It really affected me deeply. And so you're probably the one guy I could talk to and be however I'm being. And I think it would work out okay on the other side of it. So that's the other thing for me.
Yeah, same here. Like I usually wouldn't want to talk to someone, especially on a podcast, you know, with my current state. But with you, I have the confidence I'll at least feel a little better.
At least you're doing better than me, right?
Not about that, but it's something about, you know, the way we talk, your presence, and I have confidence that I'll be at a better place. Not that I'm in a shitty place, but just, you know, like we talked about, just irritable, cranky, and no patience, mostly for myself.
Well, one of the things I've noticed since you left is how much there's a lot of like kind of normal stuff that what you want to talk about, normal irritants. But when you have your outlets for being able to kind of get stuff off your chest, then you know, you get kind of clean and you can handle more bullshit. But, you know, you've been gone a long time. And I have other friends who I'm also not seeing, you know, and we have, you know, like how long has it been since I was in your backyard and we're hanging out? It's been, I don't know, January probably.
Yeah, at least half a year.
Yeah. And so few of the, you know, the men I really turn to do I see. And really, you know, I mean, I'm lucky that I have an awesome girlfriend. You're lucky you have an awesome wife and children. And definitely, I won't speak for you, but I know you probably have been leaning on her the way I've been leaning on my girlfriend. But my I much prefer to be my best self with my girlfriend. I don't want her to have to bear the brunt of what an asshole I am sometimes. It's easier for me to be an asshole with you, get it off my chest, you laugh it off, and vice versa. And then, I can be myself. It's been really hard, you know. And I think about how many people are by themselves, isolated, and they don't really have anyone that they can spend any time with because it's it's the nature of this pandemic, and it makes me really feel badly for them. But the truth is, I feel much worse for myself and more self-centered with my problems than anybody else's problems. But yeah, so is that what you're experiencing?
Yeah, just well, like what I was thinking about is the families who are in similar situation where uh, we're all kind of cut off from our usual circle, men and women, and kids too. A lot of kids don't get to see their buddies, their friends, and we're all kind of stuck home. And I'm thinking about those families. Like my situation is a little different because I'm in Taiwan right now, and things seems to be back to normal. So we're out and about. The schools are open. Uh, the only thing I'm missing is I'm really disconnected to my usual circles, you know, and I don't get to. What I realize is I get recharged by being with my circle. Like you said, we can be asshole to each other and laugh it off and be better, going home better, but we can't seem to be doing that with our wife and kids. It doesn't work that way, right? If I'm an ass to my woman, to my wife, it's not gonna end up. It's not gonna end well for me or my kids, and it's not fair. And I know not to do that.
And she doesn't deserve it either, right?
It doesn't deserve it, right? It doesn't work like that. So, yeah. So
It's a real
that's
challenge.
yeah, that's where I am.
So, are you when people in Taiwan, like you say, things are back to normal? Are people wearing masks when they're walking on the street, or?
Not as much. I would say back in March. Well, first of all, when I arrived at Taiwan, there was a mandatory 2 weeks quarantine, like a home, like stay at home quarantine, like really, really stay at home quarantine. So I was in an apartment by myself. For people who don't have access to their own place, they have quarantine hotel, and so we're all in these like hotel or apartment lockdown for 2 weeks. You can't even step foot out of the door, and when I first went out, yes, everyone was wearing masks on the streets, in the restaurants, at schools. Kids were wearing masks. But the good thing is the school never shut down. The shopping center never shut down. The restaurants never shut down. They practice social distancing and they put up these like plastic boards between tables to stop
between tables.
Yeah, or between seats. Depends on the seating situation. Basically helped to stop the spread of the spits, because that's what they believe the virus survives on, the micro droplets. So after, I would say 2-3 months, the situation seems to be under control. We have no more new cases for the past 90 days. So to answer your questions you posed, people stop wearing masks unless you're on a bus. And even on the bus, I see people going on the bus with their mask, and they lower it or they take it off, and it doesn't seem to be a problem. And people don't wear masks anymore in the park, in the restaurants, the shopping center.
So if your whole world was Taiwan, things are pretty normal.
Yes, but what's not normal is I don't get back to LA as easily. We used to have 21 flights a week between LA and Taipei, the city I'm in. Now there's only 2 flights a week. And when I go back, there's not much to do, right? Everything, to my understanding, it's being shut down right now again. And when I come back, there's another 2 weeks of quarantine. So it's just a massive waste of time and requires tons of planning ahead for everything. Yeah.
Restaurants are open for the most part. They're not indoors. I mean, the beautiful thing about LA is you can have so many outdoor places. So now a lot of places that didn't have outdoor seating, like if you look in Long Beach, in like Santa Monica, in most of the cities actually around, how do I explain this? Imagine like they take 3 or 4 parking spots in front of the restaurant, and then they have like these wooden structures where they put all the seating. And so that's pretty common now.
Mm.
And I don't think for most restaurants, that's a lot less seating than they used to have, but that's what they're doing. So the restaurants that are open like that.
Okay. Are they pretty packed, or people don't go?
Yeah. No, they're pretty packed. And some of the bars are really packed.
Hmm.
So the weird thing is everyone wears masks, but they wear them as a chin strap, or they wear them and they put them. You see a lot of these. They got their masks like this, but the nose is exposed, or they're just So what happens? You wear your mask, you go to the restaurant, then when you sit down, which is probably when most of the transmission happens,
mm-hmm.
There's no masks.
Right.
So, I mean, it's definitely less than it used to be, but it's definitely not normal. And then gyms are still closed. Are gyms open in Taipei?
Yeah. Well, it never got shut down. Like I said, nothing really got shut down here. People are just, everyone was just practicing washing your hands, putting on a mask, don't touch your face. Simple stuff. It seems to be working. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, it's definitely a strategy that worked for Taiwan. It didn't seem to work for LA or California. That's where I spent most of my time. And I was wondering why. I don't have the answer, just what I got around that is maybe we need a different kind of strategy in California, since wearing masks seems to be a challenge for a lot of people. And it's
the older people wear them more than the younger people. And my sense, I mean, there's a level. So you had the SARS-1, right? The first version. This is SARS-CoV-2.
Yes.
One way of calling it. So the SARS-CoV-1 hit Taiwan pretty hard, right?
Yeah, I hit Taiwan 10 years ago. And I think death rate is about 40%. And of course, when it hit, we had like people here had no clue. I was actually in LA when that happened, and I remember people really had no clue what it was, what it did. It took us a while to realize it's a virus that's hitting the country, and it caused a lot of doctors and nurses and patients to die. They have to. It really looks like a horror movie where they have to shut down the whole. Not shut down. They have to seal the hospital so no one can come out of the hospital. So they are just all surviving in there because. And they know the doctors and nurses know not to come out because they know there's no solutions out there for them anyway. So they're just doing their best to manage the situation in the hospital. A lot of people died and fast. But I think what the COVID-19 is scary is it didn't do that, right? And the fact that it killed a lot of people fast and early, in a sense, help stop the spread much easier than the current COVID that we have, right? Because this one, a lot of people have no symptoms. When they do, the symptoms might not be severe. But for a small percentage of people, it is severe. It is bad for them. It is lethal. And that's how the strategy of this virus is much smarter than the previous one. The previous ones come and kill everyone in contact, and this one is like, no, I'm only gonna kill 4% of the people that I'm in contact with. So it gets
evolutionarily, one doesn't want to kill anyone; it just wants to survive.
So, they just want to survive. Yes. So this one is surviving better than the previous one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it has to do. A lot of the problems in the U.S. and I don't know. I don't know enough about Taiwan to really speculate what was working in Taiwan. And part of the problem with human beings is that we must tell a narrative. We must tell a story. And we're so anti-science. Even, I know a lot of people that swear up and down how sciencey they are and they follow everything but science. But really what science is the scientific method. And if I don't care if you're a scientist or you're whatever, if you're not willing to make claims that are falsifiable and you're not willing to react to what actually, like why something is actually happening, then you're not being science-based. And so, I mean, since you and I talked about the thing about this COVID on the early time, I've been wearing a mask. I was wearing a mask when the CDC and the WHO told you shouldn't wear a mask. And I wear a mask now when everyone's scolding you must wear a mask. I don't actually know that the masks make a difference, but logically it makes sense, right? Because if it's respiratory and you want to put something between yourself and the virus, and if I put a mask in front of me and you put a mask in front of you, that's double the protection. Everybody wears a mask. It's gonna, that's logic. Is that empirically true? I have no idea. I don't think they've done studies and they know, like, really why did it work in Taiwan and it didn't work here. I've heard many hypotheses, which I believe some of them more than the others. Some of it is the amount of travel and the fact that Taiwan was able to block the travel. Another is that Taiwan was able to do the contact tracing and we didn't do good contact tracing, and, so on and so forth. I've heard another theory that says because you had the SARS-CoV-1 that you got more antibodies. And it could be cultural antibodies, which is, you got good at the cultural stuff right away when it really made a difference. And we still weren't. We were still learning it. It's one thing for the authorities to tell you to do something. It's another for the populace to actually do it, right? So, those are all hypotheses. I don't know what the actual truth is. But I can also look at what kind of behavior I see. And, like I know people who are scolding about the masks, but then they go do stuff that's not social distancing. They'll get together with people and they're like, and these are people scolding other people on social media about how they should do masks. But I look at their behavior and I'm like, what? And they don't even realize. They think they're being good and safe, but they're not. the actions they're taking are not actually good and safe. And um, it's just pretty interesting. And I definitely have seen a difference between younger men and women and older men and women. Like, um, they're like, yeah, it's not that big a deal. Yeah, it's not that big a deal because you won't die. But, I lost my mom. And the interesting thing is, they isolated her and they treated her like she had COVID. The tests were negative. And I've been seeing some interesting data about dementia patients dying in very large numbers, even not being COVID positive. And it kind of stands to reason, right? Because my brother and I would visit my mom pretty much every week, one or both of us. And, we went 2.5 months without seeing her. And then, right, March, 3 months without seeing her. And then when they isolated her, all the people she used to see, I mean, it's like seeing people. It's like you're looking at astronauts. You don't understand why. You don't understand what's going on, and nobody's hugging you, nobody's kissing you, nobody's talking to you. You don't do anything. As you know, I went in to see her a couple of days before she died, and it took something to get in to see her. And she really, after a few minutes, she heard my voice enough. She recognized. She didn't really get that I was there to visit her, and it wasn't, I mean, she sang to me, so I guess she recognized it was me on some level, right? But I have a strong suspicion that if I'd have been able to see her every week, she'd still be with us. And I don't know. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but it's just, it's very frustrating, And the other thing that was very frustrating is having a limit of 10 people to the funeral. And I don't want to be political, I'm trying to avoid being political on this stuff, but just to see that there's many, many situations I encounter where other people have other rules for prominent people who've died and the kind of funerals they have, and for different kind of activities that all of a sudden is allowed when I can't have, I can't even have more than a minion at my mom's funeral. It's the kind of stuff that makes one pretty crazy, right? And I think I think some of what we're dealing with is that we don't trust our leaders, and for good reason. Our leaders are not horribly trustworthy, but also for bad reasons, because we want too much out of our leaders. And we expect that our leaders know more than we do. But if our leaders had said, "Look, we don't actually know what's going to help this virus. Our current information is the best thing for you to do is this. We'll update you as we know more. We wish we had better information. We're going to make some mistakes. Can you please grant us, whether you voted for me or didn't vote for me?" And I mean this as on the mayor level, the state level, the presidential level. But we don't have the kind of leaders that can ask that on the other side. And we don't have the kind of people. So, here a lot of these issues have become right-left issues. And that's not really what you want in terms of public health. The virus doesn't know if your political cause is, just or not. It just wants to spread. And we have to have a way where people take good actions, whether it benefits their side or not. It's maddening.
Yeah, I think it takes a certain level of humility and courage and confidence for a leader to say what you suggested they should have said, which is be honest. Like, this is what we got. We don't know much better than you do, but let's do this together. I have not heard that from anyone. And I suspect it's because part of it is the election is coming and everyone wants to project a image that they're right, they're correct, and you can be pointing fingers at them, which make the whole thing actually worse. and for and so many things, right? And for the the mask alone, we were given complete opposite information from the start of COVID to now, right? And there weren't any good explanations of each actions or each directions that were given to us. I remember when it first came out, my first instinct was like, okay, I need to buy masks now, and I started looking for all the masks I have. Uh, Good thing that we already have some masks at home, because it's become a habit of us that when we feel sick, we wear a mask at home. Like if I know I may be coming down with a cold or flu, I wear a mask so I don't pass down to my wife and kids. So we have some. And then I start seeing on the news that there's some like Asian old lady wearing mask to a supermarket and got beaten up, right? Now it's the opposite. Now it's if you don't wear a mask at a supermarket, you get beaten up or get coffee spilled on you. That kind of stuff you start seeing. And it's fucking ridiculous. You know, if you compare 3 months ago, you get beaten up by wearing a mask, and now you get beaten up by not wearing a mask. Just how quickly things change, and it's very revealing.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy and revealing of where our society is. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on, and nobody foreseeing this for 2020, right? We all, at least I thought 2020 will be awesome because it sounds awesome, right? 2020, like 2020 vision, right? How amazing is that? All my vision will be manifested and fulfilled 2020, and it turned out to be a interesting year.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I guess
But I want to go back to the one you talked about your mom, because I think the separation thing is huge. Like I didn't realize that till you spoke about it. Like, you know, just by being like physically separated from my friends, like you and many other people, I feel lonely and separated already. You know, even though we can catch up via Zoom, or it just doesn't feel the same. So I can't imagine what it was for your mom to be not able to see both of his sons for that long period of time. That is, yeah,
they did the video calls. The video calls were so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
We have them recorded. They're just a shambles.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've got somebody with dementia and they just don't understand what they're looking at, you hand them an iPad. What is that? I mean, when I was in person, my mom stopped remembering who I was. So she's just going to see, you know what I mean? It's like, what? Somebody's barking at me, and I mean, you know, I wasn't barking at her, but I don't know how it sounded on her, for the iPad, right?
Right. Yeah,
So,
just like that, human interaction is important since the baby's born, right? You just imagine the baby's born, you handed the baby an iPad, and it's like, hey, I love you. They're not gonna feel shit, right? They really need the physical aspect of it, the sound, vibrations, the heat of the skin, even by, you know, like it's weird, right? Like when someone is like really staring at you, sometimes you can feel the energy. So there is energy being projected from just by looking at someone, and I bet the baby feels all of that. My son, when he was born, and I think you might remember this because you're the first man I called in the hospital. He was sent to ICU because he inhaled some of the fluid on the way out. So he wasn't breathing. You know, he turned like purplish. You know, we were all happy seeing the baby coming out, and the doctors was happy for like 5 seconds. It's like, oh no, something is not right. You know, he's starting to like turning like really purple, and he was sent in the ICU. At the beginning, they thought it was something congenital, like his lung wasn't just he had a bad lung or something, because the X-ray is all like foggy, right? It wasn't like a clear image. Luckily, he was out of the ICU in 3 days. They discovered it was just inhaling some of the fluid, and the fluid is dirty, right? But on the way out, everything is, it's not clean water. It's not double distilled water. It's like messy human fluid that he inhaled. So finally,
Holly
that
had that
got
when she was born,
really.
but it didn't go into her lungs, so they just cleared it out.
Oh, okay. No, it went into his lung. So,
Yeah.
but he was 3-4 days without human interactions, and now that we're going to different, we started going to school, and more than one teachers told us that would have an effect on the child, on the sense of security, on how he shows up at school. Like he's just, he's a happy kid, outgoing when he's with us, but when he goes into that environment, he's just scared. Right, and more than one teacher told us like they believe that has something to do with it. And now we talk about this. It makes sense, just that human interaction is so important. And I also believe they have done animal experiment in the past to show that like a little monkey or chimpanzee was born without physical touch from the mother or presence tend to be not healthy or even die early on. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, I could feel it when it was happening. I just didn't know what I could do about it. I didn't want my mom to catch it. I understood why they were isolating everybody. That made sense. Anyway, just very frustrating. But you look at how it affects everyone. And do you remember what it was like on 9/11? I thought that was bad already, but at least for a brief time, we came together, and there was more of, let's come together.
Yes.
And we need that. The problem is that we are actually all in this together, and we're not giving anybody else grace. It's just I'm really at a loss of what I can do to model better behavior, what I can do to, because part of the problem is everyone's so disconnected. So the people I talk to on the phone or Zoom, I only have that much limited impact. And it is really frustrating because you could see, I mean, we were not in good shape before the pandemic, but it's just, yeah. Cheery thoughts.
You were right. I remember because I remember 9/11. That was that same year on September 8th. That's when I entered the United States for my grad school at UCLA, and I remember waking up on the day of 9/11, and I was turning on my computer. We were still using Yahoo back then. Who uses Yahoo now, right? And I remember on the front page there was these like 2 buildings on fire. I thought it was a newly released movie because it's so unreal to even relate that to be something that's happening. And you're right. The whole country like came back together, stronger, with courage, pride, and love for each other and compassion. But this is not it, huh?
No.
And the way I can kind of relate it to it is like that was like a acute injury to a body, right? So once you wrap it up, we're back to healing, right? But the pandemic is really like a chronic disease. Like nobody sees an end to it, and nobody knows how to manage it, and nobody knows how do you cure a chronic disease, right? A lot of people believe there's no cure. But some people who got it under control, like you did with, some of your health situation or my situation, is you have to drastically change the way we eat, we think about food, or we relate to food, or how we live our life. That's the only way to get out of that.
Right.
And for people, and a lot of people actually became healthier than ever, or become expert on certain topics after they came out of it. So that might be something, that might be the direction we can think about.
One thing that surprises me, and I would expect it to see more, is I don't see a lot of what's going on scientifically. I'm hoping it's just there's so much noise. I'm not able to see the signal. Hopefully it's not because nobody's doing anything. But like the kinds of things I was expecting was better masks, right? Like I don't know how better, but maybe easier to breathe and yet traps more of the thing. Or I was thinking, like one of the big things, like you can't go to sporting events, you can't go to restaurants, you can't go to whatever. Is there no experimentation being done with filters and air conditioning systems to trap? Like outdoors seems to do a way better job. And maybe I don't understand the science of it, and maybe that's the issue, but it seems to me like there's not a lot of effort being done, or not a lot of discussion. Like just like there was a run, like toilet paper made no sense, or the run on masks makes sense. But I would have expected there'd be a lot more HEPA filters being used. There'd be a lot more products that helps you disinfect when you walk into the house. Mm-hmm. Or, like just there doesn't seem to be any activity that way, which doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've been dealing with the flu for the past how many years, right? How many decades? And we never solved that problem. I mean,
no, we haven't been dealing with the flu. We've been ignoring the flu.
Right. Well, it was dealt with vaccines, right? Mostly. And we know how people think about vaccines and how vaccine works, and that's a different topic I don't want to get into.
Well, what percentage of people do what you do when you get sick and wear a mask? Pre-COVID?
None.
Right?
Right.
So I think one of the things that's going to be a benefit of COVID is I think we're going to actually do better against the flu. I have masks now, right? Mm-hmm. If it's flu season, I'll wear a mask when I'm going out and about. Right? Assuming COVID is under control, whatever that looks like. Right?
Yeah.
So, but I have no idea whether a HEPA filter would help, but don't you think we should test that out, see if that will make a difference?
Well, I think HEPA filter, in theory, traps virus, right? But that's assuming that you have a AC system that's strong enough to suck in all the virus, or is very proficient at exchanging the air throughout the room, which is, they're not that efficient. They just blow out cold air, but it doesn't mean they're going to suck in all the contaminated air efficiently.
Right. But if you've got a venue, if you've got a concert hall, and the difference between being able to open or not is putting in an expensive air conditioning system that will actually do that, assuming that's technically feasible. Mm-hmm. Don't you think there's a lot of money to be made in the air conditioning business if they could show that this has the it's 75% as good as being outside,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Or a more advanced masks, right? The one like the one they wear in Mad Max, right? Just
Like
full
Bane,
on,
yeah.
with maybe a little battery operated fan in there to help you breathe better. Because it is true, it's not comfortable to wear a mask, and during summertime it's humid, and you can't really exercise in them because you don't get as much air, when you're breathing hard. But with like a forced ventilation with battery operated, I mean, we have good batteries now. Everything can be small. Maybe
Yes, yesterday went
something.
for a 5 mile walk on the beach, and I now got one of these masks that you can pull up and down easily. So when there are no people around, I have it down. When there are people around, I put it up. But like I couldn't have it up the entire time. It would
Right.
just be, you know, and I wasn't running. I was just walking. But 5 miles is a
Hmm.
lot of walk.
Yeah. Well, I think what's happening right now is people lost patience with the mask thing. So it really, like, people already made up their mind. Like, either they believe it works or they believe it doesn't work, right? And I don't know what the truth is. I just know that for it worked for some countries, and it seems not to be working for United States. And I was thinking, like, it's like, because in theory, if you stop the spread of the virus, like, if it has no chance to go on to the next host, it will die, right? Eventually, by theory, if the virus is not able to find the next host, it will die. So
Right.
given 2-3 months, if everyone follow certain discipline, whether it's staying at home or wearing masks or something else, I don't know. Like, it's a discipline everyone needs to follow, and it will be done. It will be done, because by theory, if it doesn't go to the next person, it has nowhere to go, and it will die. It will no longer exist. But 6 months later, it's more than ever. And like, how I can personally relate to that is like doing some kind of diet, right? Like, uh, like I remember, like, when I wanted to lose weight, uh, and I'll do something for a week. I'll do like a cleanse, right, for 10 days, and it was intense and hard and difficult, and I felt like I accomplished something, right? And of course, after 10 days of master cleanse, I lost 7 pounds, but I gained all that back in 3 days. And if someone asked me, "Do you think master cleanse is good for losing weight?" I would say no, right? Well, but number one, master cleanse wasn't designed for losing weight, and nobody lose weight successfully lost their weight in just 10 days, right? It takes time. It takes years to regain health. Uh, so if I take on a diet of, say, drinking green smoothie, which I did, and I did it for 2 years, I eventually lost 30-40 pounds. Like, if I only did it for 3 months, I remember back, like, I probably just lost 2 pounds, and I would say it doesn't work. It was nothing, right? So I felt that maybe that's what's going on. Is we all were forced to adapt to a discipline, but we weren't giving it enough time or commitment to do it, and a lot of people did it like half-ass, or not, didn't even do it. When not enough people are willing to do it or take the sacrifice.
Well, it's also a group thing, right? Like
Yeah.
if so, again, this is just my experience, but when the George Floyd thing happened, um, coronavirus story went away,
Hmm.
and the protests, like you know, no one really wants to talk about this because it's a very sensitive topic, and you know, I don't want to get into it, but I'm very much for police reform and ending the qualified immunity, and there's a lot of, like what happened to George Floyd shouldn't happen to another human being again, right? So this is not about the politics of it. But what happened is when the protests started happening and the 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 bans against many people meeting at once, once the taboo was broken, you could see different behavior on the street. And whether it's you thought the protests were worth doing that or you didn't think it were worth doing that, it kind of like, when you're doing a discipline over and over again, whichever way you are on the spectrum or whatever you happen to think of it, it's kind of like, okay, we're on a diet. It's your birthday. You have some cake, right? And you're like, man, I miss this cake.
That cake is fucking good. Delicious.
Right? And you're like, well, the next day you're like, well, why don't I wait another day until I get back on my diet, right? So some of that. Like one of the things that happened is people got together again. They realized how much they missed each other, how much they missed doing all this stuff. And so there's the level of seriousness. And I see this both from people that were supportive of the protests and people that were not supportive of the protests. At least, in my circles, which could be totally anecdotal, it was like eating some cake. And then, people just didn't focus it on anymore. So the tone of it just changed. Before that happened, everyone was scared shitless. And for whatever reason, like the bubble popped when that happened. And it's not a question of justifying or agreeing or what have you. It's just you see that the behavior changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know what it looked like from Taiwan, but that's what it looked like from here.
No, I mean, I've been following things that's going on over there. I don't have an answer. The best I can do is just try to not get emotional and try to observe everything with a clear mind. Is just really taking it in at this moment. I don't think there's anything else I can do.
As everyone is.
Yeah. Well, I think focus on the unemotional part too. Just gotta stay clear and clear-minded and clear-headed around this. But it's not easy. Yeah. I was, yeah. Well, because my channel is called 12 Summers, so I always think about the kids, right? The children, and our responsibility to them. So, that's one of the reasons I'm staying in Taiwan, because the school that we loved in LA just decided they're not going to be open next year. So while we kind of stayed, my wife and kids was kind of taking a vacation in Taiwan, and they got the news, and I called them and they're like, okay, I guess there's no reason to come back, because my son is at the age of going to school and he craves new things and new friends and new activities. So we decided to find him a school here for now, so he can live his life. Yeah, I can imagine for the kids that cannot see their buddies, their friends, and it must be very hard for them and the parents, because they're just when they cannot do that, they'll be little assholes just like us will be. But who are
parents? Parents, for the first part of it, they were going crazy. They were like, oh, can't wait till the summer starts. But then there's nothing to do with the kids in the summer. The summer camps are closed for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So, and then now there's a whole big to-do about where the schools are going to open, where they're not going to open. There's fights about that. And at least from what I understand scientifically, the young kids, it's not a problem, right? If you're elementary school, for sure, it's not a problem. They don't transmit it. They don't pick it up. Thank God, right? So they could go to school, but the teachers are concerned. I don't know that the teachers need to worry about the kids so much as the other teachers, right? Who you can catch it from. So I could see why they're concerned, but it's pretty interesting because um, given the way the world, the way society is working, it's one thing if you were in the 1940s and men worked, or 30s, I don't know. I don't know if it was ever like this, but supposedly, what I understand in my grandparents' age, men went to work and women stayed home and took care of the kids. So, but now men and women both work. You've got so many divorced homes. You've got so many single parents. How do they work when they've got their kids with them? If they can still work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
So,
But as a consequence, I'm actually spending more time with my kids. A good consequence, I think. And I get to observe them more closely and more frequently. And one thing I see, like not a new behavior, but just something that keeps showing up is now he's 4, turning 5. He knows how to get away from things, right? So let's say he throws something on the ground, right? And he knows it doesn't belong there and it shouldn't belong there. And now, in the past, it was like, hey, you can go pick it up. He will do that. Now he's like standoffish, right? And I don't, and I was observing, and I don't want to be like raising my voice to him and just keep repeating the same command. And I was wondering, what is your thought around that? Like, how as a father did you run into things like that when you were a father? Like your kids just refused to do something that you wanted them to do, as simple as brushing teeth or using floss or some stuff. Like how did you help them to stay on track and do the right things?
I'm trying to remember, how old is Uriel now?
Uriel is 4.5.
4.5. I mean, the problem with that age is it's difficult to reason with them, right? And it's difficult for them to see the long term. So the strategy I used at that age was more like, you got to do this. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't work. But with having seen how, that plays out over many years, I think the strategy for that age is more around habits, right? So like, is the issue that he throws his toys, all throughout the day, or is the issue that he, like, is he just trying to defy you? Like, what's the issue?
I think it's the latter. Like it's usually when he's not defy us, just he's tired, he's emotional, right? He just maybe that was the way to show his frustration. Or
that's what you said. You don't want to reiterate the command. Do you think that's? I mean, maybe it is, but do you have a command relationship? Is he supposed to listen to what you say?
No.
So why do you think a command would be effective?
I would say that I agree with what you said around habits, right? Like when we go home, we take off our shoes, and I would say put it into the the shoebox, or where it belongs. And after 50 times, now he does it automatically, right? Or 100 times, he just he does it now. So now it's a habit, and even sometimes he forgets. He'll put it back. It's like just by a little gentle reminder. Like he's like, okay, nothing big. But when he gets tired sometimes, or just it could be that it was a random thing that he did, right? Just thing drops on the floor. I don't know if it's he wants attention, or it was just something he does. He doesn't want to fix it.
See, one of the things that as a father was very hard for me to confront is you say you don't want a command relationship with your kids, but ultimately that's at the bottom of all of it. If they run in front of a car, you will pick them up.
Right.
If they do something that's really dangerous, you will stop them. And you won't necessarily explain it. So, like, underlying everything else, kind of your base layer, is a command relationship.
Yes.
Right? You don't want it to be a command relationship. You want it to be a respect relationship, or whatever your paradigm is. Right? So, to a certain extent, your dilemma is because you bullshit yourself. Right? Like, I don't have a command relationship. Well, if he kept doing what he's doing, it damn well would become one, right?
Right. Or if I'm, you have a very good point. Or it could be that I'm frustrated that my commander style wasn't working because I told him twice, and it's still on the floor, right? And so at that point, it's ineffective, right? And what do you do after that? Do you repeat it another 5 times, or that's when it really just happened yesterday. I was sitting there. It's like, what do I do? Do I like keep repeating it till his ears fall off, which I hated when I was young, or there's something else I could do?
Well, there are other things you could do, but if I told you to do those things, the thing you've got to confront is at some level, you want him to do what you want him to do, and that's what you're upset about. It's, you're either embarrassed that he's being a slob, or you're frustrated that he's testing you, or whatever it is that's going on, right? So the thing for you to confront is, well, you want to, like, you have a nice gloss on it, but like it's a power dynamic at the bottom of it, right? And if you can actually have peace about the power dynamic, then your conversation becomes different, right? So if you've got patience and you're not irritated and you're not whatever, and ultimately he is going to pick it up because you have got the power relationship, but you don't want it to be that. So is he old enough for you to say, so why are you doing that? Are you upset with me? Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on now? Right? Have a conversation with me. He doesn't know why he's doing it necessarily, but is he old enough to kind of figure it out? Figure out what's going on?
He's old enough to reason.
Yeah.
He's old enough. Like, and we actually had that conversation a few times. He would do something, and I would say, I'll actually asking exactly the same questions. Like, are you upset? Are you upset with me? And actually, interestingly, a few times he said, no, I'm not upset with you. I'm just upset with myself. And then I understand where he is, and I let him kind of blow up some steam, hide away in the closet, under the curtain for a few minutes, and he'll come back. Okay. Like now he can talk. He can listen. Yeah. That's a good point.
So, yes. So if you have a habit that he picks up all of his toys at the end of the day, right, and he throws something, you just leave it there as long as your habit's going to pick it up, right? So it's going to be on the floor for 15 minutes or half an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's time for us to pick up our toys. Okay. You know what I mean? It's kind of a different activity. The other thing that I did once, I can't say it's something you can do over and over again, but every now and again, Like he throws something on the floor, and you're like, you pick this up, and you go. He's like, and then he'll throw something, and you throw something. Why are you doing that, Daddy? I'm frustrated. I had a bad conversation at work. I'm frustrated. What's wrong, Daddy? You know? And then you have a conversation. You're like, oh, I feel better now. I'm going to pick up my stuff. You want to pick up your stuff? You know, this is modeling behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. It worked. It worked a couple of times. What I was trying to do when I did that is just more like get him to see, like, I don't like when Daddy's doing that. What's going on with Daddy?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I think part of being a dad is helping your kids understand themselves. Right?
That's so well
why
said.
is he doing what he's doing? Right? So, but that's when you have some space between the, I don't want my kids, I'm embarrassed that my kids are not, you know, are not model children, or I'm upset, you know, my self-image is that my children will get mad at me. I'm too good a person for him to treat me like this. You got to get your ego out of the way. So half the time, the truth is you're just like, right? But no, but you're doing it in a very calm, zen way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But really, you're trying to get the little shit to do what you want him to do. Right?
Like one thing I really got out of this is, again, like going to be like, you know, I don't think it's like little shit or anything, but like but there's like sometimes we get lost. I get lost in like the tasky things, right? Like, okay, you missed the task. You shouldn't have thrown that food on the floor. It's gonna stay there. It's gonna become sticky. You know, someone's gonna step on it, or someone's gonna slip on it, and it's gonna. And now I just went into my head, right? For him, it just he threw some little piece of something on the floor, and you're 100% right. That's the perfect time for a conversation, not, you know, after a few times of a reminder, like, hey, maybe you should maybe you can pick it up. You know, you can pick it up. And if that's not going in, and it's time for a conversation, not another command or another show of force, or, you know, dish out more threatening, or that. It's really time for a conversation and be present. Like let's check in. Where are you with? Are you tired? Are you mad? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? What's going on? Why did you throw it on the floor? And why do you refuse to pick it up? You know, what do you need to do to take care of that? It's really, we're installing a new piece of software for him to solve that problem, instead of the same software maybe I was given to when I was a kid. It's like, do it now, or you're bad. I'm ashamed of you. No, we're gonna install different options for him now, right? Different software. Like, okay, let's process this in a different way. I like that. That's really good reminder. And I have that. I know that. But sometimes I really get lost in the task. You know, just I'm frustrated too. I'm tired too. I'm hungry and have to deal with that. And I forgot that there are different options.
Yeah.
And
but as long as you've got the general framework of discipline, I mean, you don't want to have that control relationship with your family, but ultimately you're the dad, and you're going to make sure that your kids are safe and grow up to be, you know, good citizens in the world, right? So you're not going to let them throw their stuff everywhere they want. You're not going to let them throw temper tantrums. And if need be, you will get to that point, right? If you understand that in the back of your mind, because if you're not going to have big psychological conversations with a 4-year-old, right? It's going to be simple. They're going to learn on some level. And if you have the long conversation with him, he gets it, but doesn't really get it, and he doesn't want to pick the thing up, at some point you're going to have to say, well, in this house, that's the rule. I set the rules. This is what we do. You're going to have to pick it up, right? Not from anger, not from emotion, but, you know, or you're not going to instill discipline into your children, right?
Yeah.
So, but when you're not doing it in anger, it works. When you're doing it As
Anger.
when you're being emotional, that's not good. If you're going to be disciplined with them, you want to be unemotional, right?
I understand it's correct, but can you unpack it? Why it doesn't work when a man, like a father, is angry? Why it stopped really working?
Because what's the communication? When you're really angry, what are you communicating? Because what you think
Uh,
you're communicating, but what are you really communicating?
well, the things I'm coming up with is that you're not doing things for the right reason. Like if the kids follow the instruction, they're not doing it for the right reason, right? They're just doing because I'm angry or their father is
Right,
angry.
but if you're angry, I mean, the thing that you got to remember is you're way bigger than that little kid,
Hmm.
right? You're creating fear for them,
Hmm.
right? So if you're angry, they're like, they're scared they're going to get hit, or they're going to scared, maybe they're scared they're going to get killed,
Hmm.
seriously injured, right? Like one of the things that I had to deal with is it's hard to put yourself in the kid's shoes, right? But when you get angry, it scares them. Even if you're not angry to them, when you let your anger show, they get scared, especially at the younger age.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Right?
No, I totally get that. Like anger alone, uh, it's harmful for their spirit, and I get that. I really get that. So I almost never get angry in front of my kids, because I know how scary it is for them. You know, basically at this age, we are their gods. You know, and
The bad news is they become teenagers and it becomes harder.
right, but that's a different story, right? But like after teenager years, their body is developed, their mind is developed, not fully, but not like when they're 4 and 1. I'm super like they almost cannot do anything to like piss me off, like I. But there are two things in our household. There's like no negotiation. Like you said, like you do it with just you have to do it. There's no reason. There's no reasoning around it. One is putting on like car seats or seatbelt. There's no reasoning. There's no talking. There's no back and forth. There's no negotiation. The other one is brushing their teeth. Those are the two things. There's no room for everything else. We would talk. We will spend some time to talk about it. But like car seats, just like no, when you're in the car, that's on. That's it. No, and it's challenging in Taiwan. It's a mask thing here for some family. Like it's a perfect like contrast, right? Like in United States, everyone wears seatbelts. Every kids every kid I know goes into a car seat. No doubt about it. No debate. No arguing. No doubt. That's what you do. Not here in Taiwan yet. It's a relatively new thing to put on seatbelts in the back seats, and for children to be in safety seats. It's not new. It's common sense, but still, people. It's like it's okay.
Not
It's
a
a show.
habit. It's not a
Not a
habit.
habit. Not a habit. But that's because going back to what you said, right? There are certain things you put your foot down, right? It's like that's the rule of the house, and those are the two things. Those are the two rules
So
that
far.
they know so far, right? And it's not a good or bad thing, but that's because those are the two things they really dislike, right? On a long car ride, they hate car seats, right? They don't like to brush your teeth. When my son was 1 year old, I thought there will be never a day that he will brush his teeth or let us brush his teeth without tears and struggling and dishing out anger. Now he's 4.5. It's finally happened. He either floss himself or he open his mouth, let me rebrush his teeth after he did the first round. I was like, oh my God, like 3 years ago, I would not seen this coming. And now my daughter's turn every night. Nah. But now after 3 years, it takes time to develop these disciplines and it's paying off. So
Yeah, I'm jealous of you. So those are such good problems to have.
it's a lot of it's a huge responsibility, and at times it feels stressful in the middle of it. It doesn't feel like fun struggling with the one and a half trying to brush his teeth and she's trying to bite you and shake her hand at the same time, and you're trying to brush her teeth without getting hurt or hurting her because she's like doing violently shaking her head or biting you. It feels funny afterwards talking about it, but in the middle of it, it's frustrating as hell.
Oh, I remember all those things. I remember. But my girlfriend's daughter is expecting her first late this month. So the first grandchild. So
Nice.
yes,
Yes. You can volunteer to do the teeth brushing.
Oh, that would be very exciting. No, I think my girlfriend will handle that. I'm in charge of making sure that he learns how to skate and he can hold a hockey stick.
Oh, you'll be proud. We took Uriel to his first skating lesson. Ice skating.
I'm very proud. Very proud.
Not the rollerblade bullshit. Ice skating.
That's great.
Yeah. So
hockey stick will come later. First, let him skate.
I think he likes it so far. So we'll see. We'll see how
That's
that
excellent.
goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing to find an ice skating ring in Taipei. We don't even have a hockey team. I don't know why there's an ice skating ring. It makes no fucking sense.
Figure skating?
I don't. It's not a thing. It's not a thing for
the Olympics.
We love Michelle Kwan, but in Taiwan we don't. I don't know if we have any good ice skaters. I don't. Japan has a lot of good ones. Korea has good ones. They have that culture. I don't think we have those. It really makes no sense. Like who the hell goes in there?
Just enjoy it. You do.
Maybe I'll go too, I guess.
Yeah. It's something to do. That's the thing here is like you can go to a restaurant, but no gym's open. There's, not a ton to do. No movies. I think the movie theaters are going to die. They were not doing well to begin with. And
I miss movie theaters, man. I miss them. The one in California where you can order food, some fries, Coca-Cola this large, popcorn this big.
Yeah. Your kids won't believe you that those things existed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking that Taiwan to a lesser extent, but New Zealand will become the place where everyone shoots their movies now.
What do you mean?
New Zealand has no COVID cases. Lord of the Rings was shot
in New Zealand. Right, that's right.
Right, so think about all the action movies that can be shot in New Zealand. If they'll let in the movie stars. I suppose with a quarantine they might.
The cruise.
Yeah. I think the cruise can be local, no?
Do you know any celebrity from New Zealand?
Not the one I'm saying, the actors, yes, but I'm sure there are New Zealand actors. What I'm saying is the people that worked on there'll be people who they have some sort of camera stuff. Maybe they'll have to import some of that. But the point is, like, if you're a production that's going to be a $20 million worth of money to New Zealand, you don't think they'll let them in after a 2-week quarantine? I think they would.
Yeah. Probably. Right? Yeah, that makes sense.
They could become the new They could become the new Hollywood.
Right.
And then to a lesser, I mean, I think Taiwan. Do you have the kind of natural backgrounds and what have you?
You mean like for movies?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some. Is there a big
Well,
Taiwan movie shooting?
there's an industry. I think the what Taiwan is lacking is money, right? We have like An Lee is from Taiwan, right? So we definitely uh, have good talents here. I think he's not the only one. That's good.
So I would think like Netflix would shoot some stuff in Taiwan. Why
They
not?
actually do. They have
Yeah.
Netflix Taiwan entity.
Yeah. Right, but I'm saying the American entity could as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, and it's like you said, it's possible, right? They have to go in, do a 2-3 week quarantine for the whole crew. That's thousands of people, right? Hundreds of people
So
to
what?
shoot a movie, right?
So what?
Um,
But
yeah,
meanwhile,
meanwhile,
look
they can make them. But who's gonna watch the movie?
what else do we? Are we everyone in the
Like,
whole
there's
world?
no movie theater.
I understand, but it doesn't have to be.
Everything will be
video on demand.
Netflix. Yeah, media.
Well,
Yeah, I
and
guess.
video on demand, right? It's like
Yeah.
they're right now they've postponed like the Mission Impossible. They postponed all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But at some point they'll just go
And all my favorite TV shows are on hold too, because there's no way to shoot them.
Like what?
Everything action I like. So
Are
there's no
these
new
English language or Taiwan?
English ones, LA one, like California ones. There's no new TV shows really because no one is shooting new episodes.
Right, but
Everything
they
is.
should go to Taiwan. They should go to New Zealand and shoot them.
I think that's an excellent idea. Yeah,
Yes.
use the
Use the resources you have.
yeah. But then but they might discover that 2 weeks quarantine might not be enough.
Why?
And it can bring whole new COVID crisis to New Zealand. Why
would 2 weeks not be enough?
Well, we recently. Okay, I'll share a recent case with you. So, some guy from Belgium entered Taiwan about 2 months ago. He went through the quarantine, no problem. He's been working in Taiwan, and now he's going back to Belgium. And Belgium is requiring everyone to return, or I don't know is everyone, but they require him to do a PCR virus test before he can. PCR polymerase chain reaction, which detects DNA or RNA. So it can pick up the RNA, the RNA in the virus, right?
So if he had it, is it like an antibody thing, or is it
not an antibody? It's something. If it gets picked up, it means you have active virus. You have the virus still in your body, right? And the guy who discovered or invented PCR got the Nobel Prize. He's a pure genius, in my opinion. You know, the way he discovered it changed the whole biotech industry. Anyway, so it's very sensitive, and it did pick up. It was a light positive, so it did pick up some virus, right? So everyone was puzzled, right? Like, okay, if Taiwan claimed there's no new cases within the past 100 days, how did he fucking get COVID virus in his body? Because he's been in Taiwan for two months though, right?
Right, but when did he get tested? Did he get tested in Belgium or he tested in Taiwan?
No, he get tested like recently before he's allowed back to Belgium. Okay. So hear me out. So now it's funny, right? He's allowed to go into Taiwan, but he's not allowed to go back. And now everyone's puzzled, like how the hell he got a COVID, right? So they did another antibody test on him. So they did both IgM and IgG. So IgM, just like briefly, if you get tested positive for IgM antibody, it means there is a active or acute infection going on right now, right? And that was negative. But he has IgG, so IgG will show up strong when someone is, say, after we kind of recover from the COVID, the acute phase, you know. Now you have the antibody because the body will remember, okay, this thing attacked us, so let's remember this guy. So that's the IgG. So he was IgM negative and IgG positive. So now another hypothesis is that, okay, maybe he got infected in Belgium before he came to Taiwan, right? That's why it's IgM negative. He doesn't have an active infection going on. He has IgG because he's definitely infected in the past. We just don't know the timeline. Was he infected in Taiwan or before he entered Taiwan, right? But if that's really the case, it means the virus actually stayed in his body for 80 something days. And nobody knows if that virus will be infectious to other people. He didn't, so far, I don't think he infected anyone in Taiwan. But I'm just saying that, like, nobody knows about these viruses well enough to draw like a hard conclusion. Like, okay, after 2 weeks, you're safe. After weeks, you're much safer. You know, it doesn't mean you're 100% safe. That's what I mean.
How many different tests are there?
There are like major, like three different, like two kind of tests, right? One tests the DNA or RNA of a virus. The other one tests for the antibodies.
Right.
Yeah.
So the thing that with a nose swab, is that a DNA test?
That's a DNA test, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So from what I understand,
or RNA, DNA or RNA, nucleic acid.
Some versions of them are more effective than others. And some of them have as much as a 20% false positive. And there's others that have a smaller percent of false positive, false negative, right? So when you're testing everybody, you don't know that they're accurate. You just know if he was negative for COVID, does that mean he's really negative for COVID? But the test says he's negative. It's not 100% foolproof, right? And then the tests, it's not like everybody gets all the tests all the time. You get one of the tests. You either get the RNA or you get the antibody, right? So when people are coming into Taiwan, do they give them the DNA RNA or do they give them the antibody?
They don't do the test. They just follow the symptoms.
Oh, so they don't even do the test?
When you enter the country, you're not required to. They're not doing the test. They're just doing the quarantine for 2 weeks. Make sure you don't have any active symptoms, and you're out.
Okay. So all sorts of people could have come in with COVID. I mean, there's a lot of people here that they're tested. They were asymptomatic the whole time. They happened to get a test because they were exposed.
Right. Yeah.
They showed no symptoms. So if you're asymptomatic, you come into Taiwan, you show no symptoms for 2 weeks, but the virus stayed for 16 days.
Right.
And you go infect other people.
That's a different reality because for the past 3 months, we have no patient with symptoms.
Right.
So it will be hard to argue that we have Taiwan get all the patient with no symptoms. So we kind of assume there's no patient right now. There's no new patient. That's the assumption. We don't know. Maybe we're lucky. We just get everyone with no symptoms, or we get the strain of virus that doesn't cause any symptoms. I don't think that's very possible. Because we're so close to China.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just following the logic.
Yeah.
You can't be 100% sure you have no cases. You just have no cases I know that sounds unlikely, but you don't really know.
We don't really know because we didn't test everyone. So, but my point is like by transporting hundreds or thousands of crew to a different country, we're really, that country is really exposed. It's really exposed because nobody knows if 2 week quarantine is enough. That's my point.
Got you. Okay. But okay, so like what the NBA and the NHL are doing. So
I don't know
part of
what
the reason
they.
I'm so happy. So you haven't been watching the hockey?
No.
Oh, so this is the best weekend I've had in months. Um, my girlfriend didn't even see me. No, joking, but like right now, while I'm talking to you, I've got the Canadians game on my second screen, so I'm just following the score. Canadians and the Penguins are playing. Penguins are up 1-0, 8 minutes left in the game. So what do? They originally were going to do this with Vegas, but Vegas. So they have these two bubbles, one in Toronto, one in Edmonton. So what do they mean by a bubble? They had like a 4-phase protocol. First phase was that all the players should self-isolate. And then phase 2 is they go to their home cities and they start training, but no more than 6 players at a time. So they go on the ice, they start to, because I hadn't skated for God knows how many months, except for the ones that were in Sweden or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they come together, no more than 6 at a time, and they start taking COVID tests. So they found X number of people that had COVID. I don't know, 20 people, 30 people, right? And those people were isolated till they recovered or they didn't have symptoms or whatever, right? So then they get into phase 3, where now they're isolating more and they're taking tests every day, right? So you got to be clean, got to be clean. Nobody could come to either Edmonton or Toronto until they're clean. So now, if you're in Canada, it's fine. If you're not in Canada, you come and you have to isolate. Now you don't have COVID, you've got a test. But anyway, you come to Edmonton and Toronto, 2 weeks, you quarantine, right? Then they have near the rinks, they have hotels. So like everybody in Edmonton, all the players are staying in the Marriott, and there's one other hotel, and then they fenced off everything. Now in the stadium, like some of the press or whatever, there's a separate entrance. They're allowed to be like at the top, but they're tested every day for symptoms and what have you. But the players and anybody who's in the player bubble, including the restaurants, including everything else, they're tested every day, and they're in a bubble. They're not with their families, not with whatever, right? And they have 24 teams, 12 in Edmonton, 12 in Toronto. And because they didn't play the last 10 or whatever, how many games, they're playing a play-in round. So the first, I don't know, 5 days, there were like 6 hockey games today. There were 5 hockey games yesterday, right? There's just a shitload of hockey games, and they're all playing to empty stadiums, right? So you look at, there's no people, and they're just piping in noise or whatever.
Do they still
NBA
fight?
is doing something similar. Yeah, they fight.
Still fight? Okay.
Still fight.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
And so they're playing, and the games are great. The greatest thing is you have all these teams. Usually the playoffs are at the end of the year, and nobody's healthy. But now they had 4 months, so all these players who are out for the year are back, and they're all healthy. They're like, this is like the best playoffs ever because they're all healthy, and so they're constantly playing games all. So the first round, until they finish this round, is going to be a tremendous number of games. Then it'll be more like a regular number of games. When they get to the finals, everyone in Toronto comes to Edmonton, and they'll finish the rest of them in Edmonton. Once you get to the conference finals, the 4 teams that are left get to have their families come with them. They have to isolate for 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. But they can come if they want. They can be in the hotel with them. If they don't, they've got separate rooms for the kids and the whatever. So when they win the cup, their families can come on the ice and be with them. But since they started
what a motivator, huh?
Right? So since they started the bubble, it's been whatever, I don't know, a week or less than a week, but something like that. They have no cases in the bubble. No cases at all.
Of course.
Okay, but a lot of people didn't believe they'd have no cases, right? Basketball is doing something similar. Basketball, they had one guy who left the bubble to go to a strip club, and he's getting a lot of fines. But basically with the hockey players, they told them, if you get caught outside the bubble, your team will lose draft picks, they'll get huge fines. They're like, we're spending a shitload of money for this thing. Where, you leave the bubble, it's a big social.
It's a big consequence. Right? Yeah. Huge consequence.
Yeah. So but anyway, The baseball, for some reason, I don't know why, decided they're not going to do that. It's too hard, but whatever. So they're playing in empty stadiums, but they're playing in Dodger Stadium. They're
Yeah, they're
playing
playing outdoors under the sun. It's actually quite okay, I think.
right, but
I believe.
The Miami team, Florida Marlins, whatever they're called, they had 10 players test positive for COVID. Plus
Oh
another
no.
team had a bunch more. Right. Because you're counting on them to, they're out in society, they're out and about, they're doing whatever they're doing, right?
Right. Right.
So I
Yeah.
get they're playing out in the sun, but
Yeah. They're really doing the right. I mean, I admire them for taking such such actions to make sure the hockey games continue, and the players are willing to take the sacrifice. And
yeah.
I'm sure they're glad to take the sacrifice, because I bet they're itchy to play.
Well, there's
Being
big
off the
financial
ice.
consequences.
Yeah.
Hockey has most of the revenue from the fans, so they're already taking a big revenue hit. So one thing that happened was that the owners said that because their salaries would all drop. What they said is, no, we'll take the hit for 2 years, and then you pay it back. So the cap is going to stay flat for like 5 years. But the first 2 years, instead of their salaries drop, it's gonna stay both. I mean, they're gonna have to pay a little bit more in escrow, but it's staying mostly flat. So they negotiated it. So part of the reason why they're doing this is otherwise they have to give back all this TV revenue. So this allows them to keep the TV money, which is, I don't know, $1 billion or whatever it is. So it's worth it. And the TV guys are very happy because the ratings have never been this good. So it's worth it.
Good for
it's
them.
The best. Yeah. So
being disciplined, willing to take the sacrifice, and you get a big win. I love that story.
Yeah.
And just follow the basic science. It's not, when you have money and resource and a big enough team, it's not that hard to do testing every day. You can really invest in your own small lab. It only takes
what they did.
Right. It takes 4 hours to get the PCR result.
Right.
5, maybe. So if they take the swab in the morning, they can play in the evening or in the afternoon, knowing that none of them currently have the active virus or virus load in their body.
Right.
It makes a lot of sense. And if everyone is willing to stay disciplined, stay in the bubble, not going to the strip club, it can work.
Totally.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
And I have hockey to watch.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm glad at least you have that.
Yeah.
So, what's your channel called, and why do you do your channel? What kind of message are you trying to get out?
My channel, YouTube channel, is My Corona. It's all been about how you cope with a pandemic. It's pretty much everything we talked about, right?
Basically, yeah. Just trying to give you a advertisement time on the.
So tell me about your channel.
Well,
12 summers.
I guess we should have talked about this in the beginning, but it's not. We kind of did the reverse. It's called 12 Summers. It's a context for fathers with young children that just know that we don't have an infinite amount of time with our kids before they turn into the young adults they're supposed to be. In the first 12 years, it's the most fun, sweet. You get to spend time with. They're still innocent, naive, open to coaching, to our teaching, and it's gonna change after they become teenagers, right? So just cherish this time. Just know that this is a precious time. There's a sense of urgency if you know you don't get that yet. I've talked to many fathers, and after they get the context, they're like, "Holy shit, I have 4 left." And then we all get it. Like we all get it after understanding the context. Like 12 summers, you get 12 years, which is 12 summers, and this time will run out sooner than you expected. So
Sooner than you possibly expected. It's amazing.
right.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to getting another 12 vicariously. That's the beauty of the cycle of life. It's easier,
Yes.
Yeah,
So
nice.
that's why we're doing this.
Yeah. Do you give? Maybe I should ask you offline, but Isabella was wondering about bottle warmer. She's asking me which bottle warmer to look at, and I'm
What
like,
what bottle warmers? Oh, we don't use. Okay. I liked. That's a good question. So there are 2 kind. One is like I would say there are 2 types. They're both electricity based, but one has very little. You put very little water in there, so it heats up very fast. But I feel sometimes it can overheat the milk, which will degrade a lot of the vitamins or the good stuff, like the antibodies in there. It gets too hot too fast, and if you keep it in there for too long, it really gets too hot. There's another one. It looks like you're putting the bottled milk in like a little teapot, like a glass pot. It holds a lot more water, so it buffers out the temperature up and downs, and it just stays there. It stays at like 50 degrees Celsius, and you put your bottles in there for 5 minutes, and it's up to a temperature for the kids.
nice.
And if you
Remember
don't
what it's
have,
called?
you have to search for Amazon. Just look for the one with like a little pot. The other one is you can just boil some water and mix it with some room temperature water and just put your bottle of milk in there. It will do the same thing. If you don't want to spend the money, that will do too. That's how we do half of the time. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Any other baby gadget questions? I'd love to answer.
I'm sure more will come up. We'll have to do a baby gadget podcast.
I love those. That's what we love.
Yeah.
Buying gadgets for kids.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else you want to talk about?
No. Just so happy that we connected.
Me too. We should do this regularly.
Yeah, and have some of my questions around fathering young kid answered. So I'm very happy with that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we got to talk about some of the virus stuff because you know your shit. But you could find out anything new. I'd love if you could send me any articles you know about, like what they're coming to understand about the virus.
Sure, it's ever changing, and it's not bad, right? Just the new informations are discovered.
But just to review, so mask is still good. Yeah,
I agree.
Why washing hands still, since it's not surface? I mean, you should wash your hands anyway, but
yeah, well, because whatever you touch, you can have virus on your hand, and if you touch your eyes, rub your nose.
We don't say that anymore. Everyone used to freak out about that. Now they don't say anything about it anymore.
I think that's just common sense, but it's good common sense too.
Well, okay, so when I would go out, I'd put on gloves. I don't do that anymore.
Oh, you don't? I don't do gloves. I mean, because the virus is not going to go into your skin. As long as you wash it.
But I was wearing gloves because everyone was so psychotic about it. I was changing my mask. I was changing my hats. I was changing, right? So back when we didn't know what was going on, everyone was like, in the abundance of caution, and it doesn't seem like, yes, you should still wash your hands and whatever, but people are not as worried. I remember in the early days, everyone was worried you're going to touch something and then there was going to be virus. And now people are not so worried about that. It's much more the lungs. You think they should be worried about the touch?
Yeah, the virus goes into your mucus. So if you touch the virus and you rub your eyes, pick your nose, it'll go in.
So that's finally a good reason not to pick your nose.
Well, pick your nose after you wash your hands. Still feels
Okay.
good.
Okay. Good. Any other tips and tricks?
Just stay.
Anything you're hearing about the vaccine?
No, I don't know much about the vaccine. No.
Yeah, what do you care? You're in Taiwan.
That's well.
You don't want to worry about coronavirus anymore.
That's a topic for a whole another podcast because it's a big topic. So I'm not ready to talk about it, but and I haven't really looked into the efficacy and safety of the vaccine yet. I don't know anything about it.
All right. Well, next time then.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for a great conversation.
Thank you. Let's stop recording.
All right.